All right, good morning, everyone from California. I'm Sammy Andrzejaczek, and for my early career research so far, I've been mostly looking at the movements of sharks and rays. And we have a few different tagging types we use with them and all have some associated challenges that I'll go through. And then I'll end with a bit of a wish list of what I wish our future tags would look like. So next slide. So one of the main types of tags we use is passive acoustic tracking. Next. And how this works is we have a tag attached to an animal, and then we have like an array of receivers, or what we call hydrophones or listening arrays. And when a tagged animal swims past them, next, it will record a detection of that unique individual in space and time. So they're really accurate around where we have these arrays. Next. And what's really cool is we can have these really big collaborative networks around the world. So let's say your lab has an array somewhere and your animal swims outside into someone else's array. People can share data between these different regions. Next. But the issue is with these is they're generally coastal. It's really expensive to put these arrays offshore. And a lot of sharks and rays swim offshore. They swim really far on long migrations. And also we have no idea what these animals would be doing when they're outside the detection range of these listening arrays. Next. So to deal with some of these issues, we use more of, to look at broader ranging movements, we use satellite tracking, for which we have a few types. Next. So one of them is called location transmitting tags, or what we also call spot tags. And how these work is when the tags are exposed to the air, they will detect the presence of that tagged individual. Next. But the issue with these is sharks don't need to breathe at the surface. They're not like mammals, they have gills. So a lot of animals don't actually have to come up to the surface. And this is just a subset of 38 of over 800 species of elasmobranch. And you can see a lot of them don't even spend much time in the top 5 meters, and some don't come here at all. Next. And the other thing is you want to put these tags up as high on the animal as you can to increase the probability that it will be exposed to the surface. And you want pretty rigid attachments that can have some ethical implications and result in some deformation to the fins. Next. So another kind of satellite tracking we call is pop-up satellite tracking. And how this works is we have a tag on an animal. Next. And while it's attached to the animal, it has sensors that record light, depth, temperature, and have a really accurate clock on them. And then after a predetermined period, next, the tag will pop off the individual. Next. So many animations. And transmit the information back via satellite. And these are typically attached for around 3 months to a year or so. Next. And how we record location from these is we use what we call light-based geolocation, where we're using that light level data in the tag and the clock to estimate latitude from day length and then longitude from solar noon. But as you can imagine, that can have some big errors. So these are some tracks from mantas tagged off Peru. And you can see that first image on the left, it has some really big error bands, and we can't tell for sure if the animal's in Ecuador or Peru, and that can have some pretty big management implications. Next. And the other issue as well is we're really limited by battery in these instances. So we're limited by transmission of the data back to the satellite, and then how long that tag can actually be attached to an animal. Next. And then the last kind of what I broadly call as biologging, next, is when we actually physically recover the tag. Next. Oh yeah, and next. These are my really poor artistic things. But anyway, and when we get all the data back, we can download the entire archive time series. So from those pop-up satellite tags, we get a really fine scale time series of depth and temperature data. And next. But then we can also have some really cool sensors in these tags, such as accelerometers and cameras, and we can get the tail beat from data from the tag, make these really cool 3D plots, have some video cameras to really contextualize those movement patterns. And next. But the issue is also storage and battery. These are recording a lot of data, so we typically only get them out for a few days to a week. And we also need to physically recover the device. And for animals that move really long distances, you don't want to be going offshore looking for something that is smaller than a little handbag out in the ocean. Next. So these are like the 4 main broad types. There's other kinds, but you can just see how they're all placed. These are all on a white shark, about 12 to 15 foot animals. So you can kind of imagine how big these devices are. Next. So how do we choose what type of tag we use? First of all, always, what is your question? What is the spatial and temporal scale you want to look at? But really importantly, what does your animal do? If it goes offshore, those acoustic tags won't be of use. If it doesn't go onto the surface, those spot or location transmitting tags won't be of use. Does it even use the light zone? If not, you're going to have trouble geolocating that animal in space. How deep does it go? Some sensors will implode beyond 800 meters or 2 kilometers. How big is your animal? Some of these tags would not look good on a little 1 meter shark. How do you attach it? What are the ethical and logistical constraints? And also, how much does it cost? That tag on that whale shark there is about $10,000, which is way beyond the average PhD student's budget. And next slide. So what would I want if I could have it all? I'd ideally want all these sensors on a small tag that go out for a year and then transmit all the information back to me. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. So ideally, what are some of the things I'd want? Longer deployment durations and better data transmission. And I think we're really limited by batteries at the moment for those things. So smaller and longer duration batteries. Some onboard processing of the data that we're collecting. So if we knew the statistics we wanted, we could program the tag to calculate those and then transmit them back to us, which would, instead of having an entire time series transmitting, we just have those statistics we wanted. So miniaturization of existing technologies, then we can get on smaller size classes and smaller species. Improving our geolocation algorithms to have more accurate location estimates, some better and more sensors. So dissolved oxygen would be really cool, chlorophyll, prey fields to really contextualize those movement patterns we've got going on. And then also thinking of some better deployment methods that could be ethically and logistically better. Shark skin is really hard to deal with. It's really different to marine mammals. Marine mammals, they have these suction cups that work really well, but that doesn't work on shark skin, which is a little like sandpaper. So yeah, I'm really interested in hearing anyone's thoughts or questions and any discussion that comes from this. So thank you for having me.
Awesome, thank you. Firstly, your animations were perfection, and I love, I'm a visual person, so it was a helpful thing. Hey, Thomas, did you want to jump in and just respond with your comment?
Sure. Yeah, so I pretty much did my job for me for anything that I would do, but aside from explaining what I do, I work here for the Argos satellite system. And just a very brief comment on the data throughput. So right now, I think we have 6 or 7, maybe 8 satellites. There's another one going up in 2 months from now, and another one going up later this year. But starting in quarter, I think 3 of next year, so let's say June, July, we're launching 5 of 25 satellites that will be added to the Argos network. So by the end of 2024, we should have at least 20 additional satellites in the Argos constellation. So you'll go from having these large gaps of I think like 5 or 6 hours here in California down to about 7 or 8 minutes between satellite passes. So for animals that frequent the surface, you're almost going to have real-time communication. And then for the pop-up tags that carry tens of thousands of packets, I think there will be a realization that we can get the vast majority of those raw sets of data.
Very cool.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks so much, Sammy.